The silver halls of the Cephalian High Council gleamed under the light of 3 moons. Council leader Thox stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his skin rippling with blue patterns that showed his amusement. Around the circular table, 11 other council members waited, their skin displaying similar patterns of entertainment. "Bring in Ambassador Lyra," Thox ordered. The doors slid open. Lyra walked in with her head held high. Unlike the others, her silver skin showed patterns of green and gold, colors that marked her as different. She had always been different, more emotional, more curious about other species than a proper Cephalian should be. "Ambassador Lyra," said Thox, "we have an important mission for you." Lyra bowed respectfully. "I am honored to serve the Confederacy. The humans have established their first diplomatic outpost on our world," said Council Member Ziv. "We must respond according to our ancient traditions." Lyra's skin flashed with excitement. She had studied humans extensively since their ships first appeared in Cephalian space. They were fascinating, so different with their solid colors, their 2 arms, and their strange ways of thinking. "What tradition will we observe?" she asked. Thox's skin rippled with hidden laughter. "The bonding ceremony. You will be sent as a bride to their diplomat." Lyra's patterns froze in shock. "A bride? But that tradition hasn't been practiced in 500 years. "We are reviving it," said Ziv, her skin barely containing flickers of mischief. "You will go to the human outpost and present yourself as a diplomatic bride to their ambassador Chen." Confusion washed over Lyra's face. "But humans don't practice diplomatic marriages, they won't understand." "Then you will explain it to them," interrupted Thox. "You've always wanted to learn more about humans. Now you'll have the perfect opportunity." Lyra wasn't fooled. The council members' skin patterns revealed their true intentions. This was a joke, a prank at her expense, and at the expense of the humans they secretly looked down upon. "How long will this assignment last?" she asked carefully. 3 of their Earth months, said Thox. "You will record everything for cultural research." Lyra understood the unspoken message. They expected the human to reject her, to be disgusted by her alien appearance. They wanted to laugh at both of them and prove that humans and Cephalians could never truly understand each other. They wanted to cure her of her fascination with humans. "I accept this mission," she said finally, her patterns revealing nothing of her inner thoughts. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the window of Earth's first diplomatic outpost on Cephalian Prime, watching the strange purple plants sway in the breeze. At 35, he was younger than most expected for Earth's first ambassador to the Cephalians, but his background in cultural anthropology made him uniquely qualified. His communication device beeped. "Ambassador Chen, incoming message from Cephalian High Council." Marcus tapped the screen. The silver face of Council Leader Thox appeared. "Ambassador Chen," said Thox with a formal nod. "We will honor your arrival with an ancient diplomatic tradition. In 3 days we will send you a diplomatic companion according to our customs." Marcus frowned. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. What kind of companion?" "All will be explained upon arrival. To refuse would be considered highly offensive." Thox's skin flickered with colors Marcus couldn't interpret. Before Marcus could ask more questions, the screen went dark. He sighed and ran a hand through his short black hair. 6 months of training on Cephalian customs, and they'd never mentioned anything like this. He tapped his communication device again. "Earth Command, this is Ambassador Chen. I've just received a strange message from the Cephalian Council about sending me a diplomatic companion. Any information on this?" After a long pause, a voice responded. "No reference in our cultural database, Ambassador, but we recommend compliance to avoid diplomatic incidents. Proceed with caution." "Great," Marcus muttered to himself. "Just great." 3 days later, Lyra sat nervously in the shuttle heading toward the human outpost. Her ceremonial robes felt heavy on her forearms. In her lap sat the traditional bonding gifts, a crystal that captured memories, a vial of sacred water from the first ocean, and a circlet made of rare metals. The pilot turned to her. "We've arrived, Ambassador." Lyra took a deep breath. Thank you. As she stepped off the shuttle, the alien sun felt warm on her silver skin. The human outpost was smaller than she expected, a simple building of white and gray surrounded by monitoring, equipment and communication arrays. A door slid open and a human walked out. Lyra had seen images of humans before, but seeing one in person made her skin ripple with fascination. He was shorter than a cephalian, with brown skin, black hair, and eyes that reminded her of the night sky. He had only 2 arms, and his face showed emotions in a completely different way than her people's skin patterns. This must be Ambassador Chen. He approached with careful steps and stopped at a respectful distance. Welcome to Earth Outpost 1. I am Dr. Marcus Chen, Earth's diplomatic representative. Lyra performed the traditional greeting, her 4 arms moving in the ritual pattern. I am Ambassador Lyra of the Cephalian Confederacy. I come bearing the tradition of bonding. Marcus's face showed confusion, but he bowed slightly. I'm honored by your visit, though I must admit I don't understand the nature of this tradition. Lyra felt her skin patterns shift with embarrassment. She knew the council was probably watching this transmission, enjoying the awkwardness. She held out the ceremonial gifts. According to ancient Cephalian custom, I have been sent as your diplomatic bride, to create bonds between our worlds through personal connection. Marcus's eyes widened. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. I'm sorry, did you say bride? Lyra's skin flashed with patterns of discomfort. Yes, for 3 months I am to stay here and fulfill this ceremonial role. She waited for the rejection, the disgust, the outrage that the council expected. Instead, Marcus's face showed something unexpected. Thoughtfulness. This is obviously an important cultural tradition for your people, he said slowly. While it's not something we practice, I don't want to cause offense. He gestured toward the outpost. Please, come inside. We can discuss the parameters of this arrangement. As Lyra followed him into the outpost, she realized this human wasn't reacting as the council had predicted. There was no rejection, no visible disgust at her alien form. Perhaps this joke wouldn't play out exactly as the council had planned. In the observation room back on Cephalian Prime, Council Leader Thox watched the transmission with narrowing eyes. Interesting, he murmured as his skin flickered with patterns of surprise. Most interesting indeed. Inside the human outpost, Lyra felt strangely nervous. She had studied humans for years, but being alone with one was different. The air inside smelled clean but strange. The lights were brighter than Cephalians preferred. Marcus led her to a round table in what appeared to be a meeting room. Please sit, he said, gesturing to a chair designed for Cephalian visitors with space for 4 arms. Lyra sat carefully, placing her ceremonial gifts on the table. I understand this must be confusing for you. Marcus took a seat across from her. His face showed what Lyra recognized as a thoughtful expression. I'm a cultural anthropologist by training, he explained. Before becoming a diplomat, I studied how different societies interact. So I understand there must be important reasons behind this tradition. This was not what Lyra had expected. The council had told her humans were simple, easily offended creatures. Yet Marcus seemed genuinely interested in understanding. To be honest, Lyra said, her skin patterns shifting to show sincerity. This tradition is very ancient. It hasn't been practiced in 500 years. Marcus raised his eyebrows. Really? And they chose to revive it now? For Earth's first diplomatic contact? Lyra's skin flashed with patterns of embarrassment. Should she tell him the truth? If she did, would he report it to the council? It's complicated, she said finally. The important thing is that I am here to learn about humans and to help you understand Cephalians. Marcus nodded slowly. And the bride aspect? It's mostly symbolic, Lyra assured him quickly. In ancient times, it meant I would stay in your household, learn your ways, and teach you ours. It was how our people first formed alliances with neighboring species long ago. I see, Marcus said. Well, I have a spare living quarter you can use. It was designed for Cephalian visitors, so it should be comfortable. He stood up and picked up one of her bags. Let me show you around. Days passed, and Lyra waited for the humiliation the council had planned. But it never came. Marcus treated her with respect and genuine curiosity. Each morning they would share the first meal of the day together. Marcus would ask her questions about Cephalian culture, and she would ask him about Earth. What is this? Lyra asked one morning, pointing to a small device on the table. It's a music player, Marcus explained. He touched it and strange sounds filled the room. This is Bach, a human composer from about 300 years ago. Lyra's skin rippled with wonder as the complex patterns of sound washed over her. Cephalians had music, but nothing like this. The mathematics of it, the emotional quality, it was fascinating. It's beautiful, she said quietly. Marcus smiled. Music is one of humanity's universal languages. Every human culture has developed music independently. Lyra listened intently. Can you teach me more about human music? I'd be happy to, Marcus replied. In the observation room on Cephalian Prime, Council Leader Thox watched the transmissions, with growing frustration. Where is the entertainment we were promised, he demanded. They just talk about music and food and cultural practices. Council member Ziv looked equally confused. Perhaps the human is being polite, waiting for the right moment to reject her. It's been 3 weeks, Thox said impatiently. This is not going as planned. Back at the outpost, Lyra was making progress with human language. Cephalians communicated partially through skin patterns, something humans couldn't do. But Marcus was teaching her the subtle facial expressions and body language humans used instead. When I do this, Marcus said, lifting the corners of his mouth, it's called a smile. It means I'm happy or amused. Lyra tried to match the expression, though. Her face worked differently. Like this? Marcus laughed, another human expression of emotion. Close enough. In return, Lyra taught Marcus about Cephalian communication. This pattern, she explained, making her skin ripple with blue and gold, means I'm sharing knowledge. Willingly. It's how we show openness. Marcus watched with fascination. Your communication is so beautiful. I wish humans could do that. But your voices are so expressive, Lyra replied. The way you can change tone to convey meaning, it's remarkable. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra found herself enjoying Marcus's company more than she expected. He was nothing like the primitive creature the council had described. He was intelligent, thoughtful, and kind. One evening, they sat together in the observation dome of the outpost, watching the 3 moons of Cephalian Prime rise over the horizon. Can I ask you something personal? Marcus said suddenly. Lyra's skin flickered with surprise. Of course. This diplomatic bride tradition. I've been researching our database and I can't find any historical reference to it. And you said it hasn't been practiced in 500 years. He turned to look at her directly. What's really going on here, Lyra? Lyra's skin went still, a sign of shock among Cephalians. She hadn't expected him to be so direct. She began, then stopped. Would telling the truth ruin everything? But looking at Marcus's open, honest face, she couldn't continue the deception. The council sent me here as a joke, she admitted, her skin showing patterns of shame. They think humans are primitive. They think I'm strange for being interested in your species. They expected you to reject me in disgust, to prove that our species can never understand each other. She waited for anger, for hurt. Instead, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then to her surprise, he laughed. So we're both pawns in someone else's game? He asked. Well, how about we play our own instead? Lyra's skin patterns shifted to confusion. What do you mean? Marcus smiled. Let's show them how wrong they are. Let's prove that humans and Cephalians can understand each other perfectly well. For the first time since arriving, Lyra felt a surge of hope. Her skin rippled with bright patterns of joy. I would like that very much, she said. In the observation room on Cephalian Prime, Council Leader Thox watched this exchange with narrowing eyes. "This is not going according to plan," he muttered. "Not at all." 2 months had passed since Lyra arrived at the human outpost. Since revealing the truth about the Council's prank, she and Marcus had grown closer. They spent their days learning about each other's cultures and their evenings sharing stories from their homeworlds. On Cephalian Prime, the Council was not pleased. Their plan had backfired completely. "What do you mean she's not transmitting daily reports anymore?" Council Leader Thox demanded, his skin flashing angry red patterns. "She sends only the required weekly summaries," explained the communication officer. "They are minimal." Thox slammed 2 of his 4 hands on the table. "This is unacceptable. Send her a direct order to return immediately." "There's a problem," said Council Member Ziv. "A solar storm is interfering with long-range communications. We can send basic messages but not complex orders. It could be days before we can recall her properly." Thox's skin darkened with frustration. "As soon as communications clear, I want her back here." Unaware of the Council's anger, Lyra sat with Marcus in the outpost's small garden section. Plants from both Earth and Cephalian Prime grew there, creating a blended environment of green and purple foliage. "I've been meaning to ask," Marcus said, as he carefully watered an Earth tomato plant. "How do Cephalians reproduce? I've read some reports, but they're not very clear." Lyra's skin flickered with patterns that would have been recognized as embarrassment by another Cephalian. "It's complicated. We don't have physical reproduction like many species." "You don't have to explain if it makes you uncomfortable," Marcus said quickly. "No, it's fine," Lyra replied. "Cephalians reproduce through a process called consciousness merging. When 2 Cephalians decide to create a new life, they enter a special meditative state where their minds connect. Their genetic material is exchanged through this mental connection, and a new life begins to form." Marcus looked fascinated. "That's amazing. So there's no physical component?" "The physical changes come after the mental connection," Lyra explained. "One partner's body begins to develop the new life after the genetic information is exchanged. But the initial connection is mental, a complete merging of consciousness." "We have nothing like that on Earth," Marcus said. "That's why your people think we're so different, isn't it?" Lyra nodded. "The Council believes humans are too primitive for such advanced connections. They say your brains aren't developed enough for consciousness merging." Marcus smiled slightly. They might be surprised at what humans are capable of. That evening, Marcus introduced Lyra to another human tradition, dancing. "Dancing is important in almost every human culture," he explained as he set up the music player. "It's a way to express emotion, to tell stories, and sometimes to connect with others." He held out his hand. "Would you like to try?" Lyra hesitated. "I have 4 arms. I don't think I can dance like a human." "We'll create our own dance," Marcus said. "Something that works for both of us." As the music began, something slow and gentle that Marcus called a waltz, he showed her how to place 2 of her hands in his. Her other 2 hands rested lightly on his shoulders. "Now we just move together with the music," he said softly. They began to move around the room awkwardly at first. Lyra had to adjust to moving her feet in patterns instead of letting her skin express the emotion of the music. But soon, they found a rhythm that worked. As they danced, something strange happened. Lyra felt a familiar sensation, like the beginning of a consciousness merging. But that was impossible with a human, wasn't it? She looked up at Marcus and saw that his eyes had widened in surprise. "Do you feel that?" he whispered. Lyra nodded, unable to speak. Her skin was glowing with patterns she had never displayed before, swirling golds and silvers that moved in time with the music and with their steps. "What's happening?" Marcus asked, but he didn't pull away. "I don't know," Lyra answered honestly. "It feels like the beginning of a consciousness merging, but that shouldn't be possible between our species." As they continued to dance, the sensation grew stronger. Lyra could feel Marcus's emotions, his curiosity, his wonder, and something deeper, something warm that she couldn't name. She knew he could feel hers too, though he couldn't see her skin patterns the way another Cephalian could. The music reached its peak, and so did the strange connection between them. For a moment, just a moment, their minds touched in a way that should have been impossible. Not a complete merging like Cephalians experienced, but something new, something different. When the music ended and they stood still, the connection faded slowly, leaving both of them breathless. That was... Marcus began, but couldn't find the words. Impossible, Lyra finished for him. But it happened. They looked at each other in wonder, neither fully understanding what had just occurred. That night, as Lyra rested in her quarters, she felt strange. Her body was warm, her skin patterns shifting in her sleep. Deep inside her, something had changed. The partial merging with Marcus had activated ancient reproductive pathways in her biology, pathways that were now adapting to his genetic contribution in a way Cephalian scientists had declared impossible. In the darkness of her room, her skin glowed with new patterns that no Cephalian had ever displayed before. If another of her kind had been there to see, they would have recognized the signs of new life beginning. But these patterns were different. They contained swirls and shapes that had never been seen in pure Cephalian reproduction. Lyra slept, peacefully, unaware that her body was creating something unique in the history of both their species. A hybrid child born of human determination and Cephalian adaptation. And in the monitoring room on Cephalian Prime, as the solar storm finally began to clear, Council Leader Thox prepared to send the recall order that would bring Lyra, and her impossible secret, back home. Lyra stood in her quarters at the human outpost, reading the message from the Cephalian High Council for the third time. The order was clear: return immediately. Her 3-month assignment was being cut short by 2 weeks. Her skin flickered with worry patterns. She hadn't told Marcus about the strange changes happening in her body. At first, she thought she was imagining things. The unusual warmth, the new skin patterns that appeared when she slept, the strange sense that she wasn't alone even when no one was near. But this morning, she had finally accepted the truth. Somehow, the partial consciousness merging during their dance had done what should have been impossible. She was carrying a developing life form. She was pregnant with a hybrid child. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Lyra, are you okay?" Marcus's voice came through the door. "You missed breakfast." She opened the door and saw concern on his face. "The council is ordering me to return," she said, handing him the message. Marcus read it quickly. 2 weeks early? Did something happen? Lyra's skin patterns shifted nervously. "I think they're worried about how well we're getting along. This isn't the outcome they wanted from their prank." Marcus handed the message back. "When do you have to leave?" "Tomorrow morning." His face showed disappointment. "So soon? I thought we'd have more time." Lyra hesitated. Should she tell him about the child? Would he even believe her? How could she explain something that her own people would declare impossible? "Marcus, there's something," she began, but was interrupted by an alert from the outpost's communication system. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," announced the automated voice. Marcus looked apologetic. "I have to take this, we'll talk later." Lyra nodded, watching him hurry to the communication room. Perhaps it was better this way. She would return to Cephalian Prime, confirm her condition with their medical experts, and then find a way to tell Marcus the truth. The next morning came too quickly. Marcus helped carry Lyra's bags to the shuttle that would take her back to the Cephalian capital. "Will you be able to come back?" he asked as they stood by the shuttle door. "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "The council might not allow it." Marcus took her hands, 2 of them in the human way. "Whatever happens, I'm glad they sent you as a joke bride. It's the best prank anyone ever played on me." Lyra's skin glowed with patterns of affection. "And me." They said goodbye with a human custom Marcus had taught her, a hug. It felt strange to wrap all 4 of her arms around his 2-armed form, but also right somehow. As they embraced, she again felt an echo of that consciousness connection they had shared while dancing. "I'll find a way to see you again," Marcus promised. Lyra boarded the shuttle with those words warming her heart. The journey to the Cephalian capital took only a few hours. When the shuttle landed, Lyra was surprised to see not just a standard greeting party, but Council Leader Thox himself waiting on the landing platform. "Ambassador Lyra," he said formally, but his skin showed patterns of suspicion. "The Council awaits your report." Lyra followed him to the Silver Tower where the High Council met. The 12 members sat in their usual circular arrangement, their skin patterns barely hiding their anticipation. They expected to be entertained by tales of awkwardness and cultural misunderstandings. "Ambassador," began Thox once she was seated in the center of the circle. "Tell us about your experience with the human." Before Lyra could speak, Council Member Ziv interrupted, her skin showing mocking patterns. "Did he find our customs strange? Was he disgusted by your appearance? Did he reject the bride ceremony?" The other council members flickered with amusement. Patterns. They were still treating this as a joke. Lyra straightened her posture, her forearms positioned in the formal reporting stance. Ambassador Chen was respectful, curious, and intelligent. He embraced the opportunity to learn about our culture and shared his own willingly. The amusement patterns faded from the council members' skin. This was not what they had expected to hear. Surely there were difficulties, pressed Thox. Moments of human primitiveness or disgust? None, Lyra said firmly. In fact, I believe this assignment has created a solid foundation for positive relations between our species. Thox's skin darkened with frustration. This is not the report He stopped suddenly, staring at Lyra with widening eyes. The other council members were staring too, their skin patterns showing shock and disbelief. Lyra realized what was happening. Her skin was betraying her. Cephalians could read each other's biological states through their skin patterns, and hers were now displaying something unmistakable to any of her kind, the patterns of new life developing. "What is this?" Thox whispered, his voice barely audible. "This cannot be." Ziv stood up, her skin flashing with patterns of alarm. "Ambassador Lyra, your patterns indicate reproduction has begun, but that's impossible. You were with a human." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Council members were standing, their skin flashing with patterns of shock, disbelief, and in some cases, disgust. "Silence," Thox commanded, and the room quieted. He turned to Lyra, his skin showing the official patterns of inquiry. "Explain this now." Lyra's own skin displayed truth patterns, impossible to fake among her kind. "Ambassador Chen and I experienced a partial consciousness merging. I don't know how it was possible, but it happened." "Impossible," shouted another council member. "Humans don't have the neural capacity for consciousness merging." "Medical specialist," ordered Thox. "We need medical specialists here immediately." Within minutes, 3 Cephalian medical experts arrived. They scanned Lyra with various devices, their skin patterns showing increasing confusion and wonder. The lead medical specialist turned to face the council. "It is confirmed. Ambassador Lyra carries a developing life form. The genetic signature is mixed, Cephalian and not Cephalian." "This is a diplomatic crisis," Thox declared. "Nothing like this has ever happened in our history." He pointed at Lyra. "Ambassador Lyra will be placed under house arrest while we determine how to proceed. No communication with the human outpost is permitted." As guards escorted her from the council chamber, Lyra realized the joke had backfired in a way no one could have imagined. What the council had intended as a prank had turned into something that would change both their worlds forever. And somewhere in the background, a scientist's voice was saying in wonder, "But how? How could a human adapt to our reproduction method? It should be biologically impossible." 2 weeks had passed since Lyra's sudden departure, and Marcus was worried. His daily messages to the Cephalian Council went unanswered. His requests for updates on Ambassador Lyra were met with automated responses about diplomatic procedures being followed. Something was wrong. He could feel it. "Earth Command, this is Ambassador Chen," he said into the communication device. "I need to speak with Director Patel immediately." After a short delay, Director Patel's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, her gray hair pulled back tightly, her expression serious. Ambassador Chen, what's the emergency? Director, I believe something has happened to Ambassador Lyra. The Cephalian Council isn't responding to my messages. All diplomatic communications have stopped. Director Patel frowned. We've noticed the silence too, but we can't jump to conclusions. Perhaps they're reassessing their diplomatic approach. It's more than that, Marcus insisted. Before Lyra left, something happened, something significant. What exactly are you talking about, Ambassador? Marcus hesitated. How could he explain the connection he and Lyra had shared? Would anyone believe him? I can't explain it fully, but I believe Lyra might be in danger. I need permission to travel to the Cephalian capital. Director Patel's eyes widened. That's out of the question. No human has ever been permitted in their capital. If you attempted to go there without an official invitation, it could cause an interstellar incident. Then what do you suggest? Marcus asked, trying to keep the frustration from his voice. Wait, follow protocols. That's your order, Ambassador Chen. After the call ended, Marcus sat in silence for a long moment. Then he made a decision. Sorry, Director, he said to the empty room, but I can't follow that order. Lyra sat by the window of her living quarters, watching the 3 moons rise. Her skin glowed with the patterns of pregnancy, now impossible to hide. Medical specialists visited daily, running tests and asking endless questions. The council had declared her situation a matter of planetary security. She placed all 4 hands over her midsection, where the hybrid child grew. The medical specialists were amazed by what they found. The child had both Cephalian and human characteristics, developing in ways never seen before. How did your species adapt to ours so quickly? One specialist had asked in wonder. Lyra didn't have an answer. She only knew that something special had happened between her and Marcus, something that defied scientific explanation. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. It slid open to reveal Council Member Ziv, her skin showing conflicted patterns, curiosity mixed with disapproval. The Council has made a decision, Ziv announced without greeting. The hybrid child will be studied from birth. It will be raised in a scientific facility where researchers can monitor its development. Lyra's skin flashed with alarm patterns. No, this child is mine, and Marcus has a right to know about it. The human will not be informed, Ziv stated coldly. This situation is unprecedented and potentially dangerous. We cannot allow human interference. You can't do this, Lyra protested. You can't take my child. The decision is final, Ziv said. When the birth occurs, the child will be taken to the facility. You will be reassigned to a distant outpost. After Ziv left, Lyra sat in despair, her skin showing patterns of deep distress. How could she reach Marcus? How could she protect her child? On the outskirts of Cephalian space, Marcus piloted a small emergency shuttle he had borrowed from the outpost. He had violated direct orders, disabled the tracking systems, and was now entering Cephalian territory without permission. If he was caught, his career was over. He might even face criminal charges, but none of that mattered. Something was wrong with Lyra, and he had to find her. The shuttle's systems beeped a warning. A Cephalian patrol ship was approaching. Great, Marcus muttered. Caught already, he quickly activated the emergency protocols he had prepared. The shuttle's communication system broadcast a distress signal, while its engines began to leak plasma in a controlled pattern. When the Cephalian patrol ship hailed him, Marcus responded, with the best acting of his life. Mayday, Mayday. This is Earth Diplomatic Shuttle experiencing critical system failure. Request emergency landing permission. The Cephalian patrol hesitated, then directed him to a small landing facility on the outskirts of the capital. It wasn't ideal, but it would get him to the planet. The landing was rougher than necessary, but Marcus needed it to look genuine. The shuttle skidded across the landing pad, sparks flying, before coming to a stop. Emergency teams rushed toward the vehicle. As they opened the door, Marcus stumbled out, coughing dramatically in the smoke from the minor fires he had deliberately set. Thank you, he gasped, in broken Cephalian, a language Lyra had been teaching him. Systems. Failed. Dangerous journey. The confusion of the emergency landing gave him the opportunity he needed. While the Cephalian emergency teams focused on securing the shuttle, Marcus slipped away into the strange, silver-streaked landscape of the Cephalian capital. Now he just had to find Lyra in a city of millions without being captured by Cephalian authorities. Simple. Back in her quarters, Lyra was startled by an alert on her personal communication device. It shouldn't be possible. All her communications were being monitored or blocked. The message was short. Human shuttle crashed on landing pad 7. Single occupant missing. Lyra's skin lit up with patterns of hope and disbelief. It couldn't. Birsa, could it? Marcus was here? On Cephalian Prime? How had he managed it? And how would he find her? Then she remembered something. During their time together, they had experienced that strange partial consciousness merging. Perhaps some connection remained. Closing her eyes, Lyra concentrated on that feeling, that unique sensation of their minds touching. She focused all her energy on it, her skin glowing brighter than ever with patterns no Cephalian had seen before. Patterns that somehow incorporated human emotional expressions. Somewhere in the vast capital city, Marcus stopped suddenly in his tracks. He felt something, a pull, a familiar sensation like the one he had experienced when dancing with Lyra. "I can feel you," he whispered, turning in the direction the sensation was strongest. "I'm coming, Lyra." As night fell over the Cephalian capital, a lone human made his way through the alien city, following a connection that science said shouldn't exist. And in her guarded quarters, a Cephalian ambassador waited, her skin glowing with patterns of hope and the life that grew within her, a life that would change everything. The silver towers of the Cephalian capital gleamed under the light of 3 moons as Marcus made his way through unfamiliar streets. He kept to the shadows, avoiding the curious looks of passing Cephalians. A lone human was an unusual sight here, and he knew it was only a matter of time before security forces found him. But the strange connection he felt, that impossible mental link with Lyra, grew stronger with each step. He was getting closer. Finally, he stood before a tall building surrounded by security barriers. This had to be it. The feeling was strongest here, pulling him like a magnet. But how would he get past the guards? As he watched from his hiding place, Marcus noticed a delivery vehicle approaching the building. With a deep breath, he made his decision. As the vehicle slowed at the security checkpoint, he slipped underneath it, clinging to its underside. The guards waved the vehicle through, and Marcus held on, his muscles straining. Once inside the complex, he waited until the vehicle stopped, then dropped silently to the ground and rolled beneath a nearby transport platform. Inside his mind, the connection with Lyra pulsed like a beacon. Up. He needed to go up. In her quarters, Lyra's skin glowed with excitement patterns. The connection was stronger now. Marcus was close, impossibly close. How had he managed to find her? Suddenly, she heard a noise at her window. Looking up, she saw fingers gripping the ledge from outside. Human fingers. The window slid open, and Marcus pulled himself into the room, breathing heavily from the climb. "Marcus." Lyra's voice was a whisper of disbelief. "How did you—" "I followed you," he said simply, moving toward her. "I could feel you somehow, like that night when we danced." He stopped suddenly, noticing the changed patterns on her skin, patterns that glowed with an intensity he had never seen before. "Lyra, what's happening? Are you okay?" Lyra took his hands with all 4 of hers. "Something impossible happened between us, Marcus. Something wonderful and terrifying and beautiful." She guided his hands to her midsection. "I'm carrying a child." "Our child." Marcus's eyes widened in shock. "But how? We didn't— our species are completely different." "The consciousness merging," Lyra explained. "When we danced, when our minds connected, something happened that science says is impossible. My body adapted to your genetic contribution. The medical specialists can't explain it." Marcus sat down heavily, trying to process this information. A child? Our child? Part human, part cephalian? The first of its kind, Lyra said. Her skin patterns shifted to show worry. The council wants to take the child away for study. They're going to send me to a distant outpost. They don't want you to know about any of this. Marcus's expression hardened with determination. I won't let that happen. We need to get you out of here. But how? The building is guarded. The entire city will be looking for you by now. Marcus smiled slightly. I got in, didn't I? We'll find a way out. Humans are pretty good at doing the impossible. In the High Council chamber, an emergency meeting was underway. What do you mean a human has infiltrated the capital? Council leader Thox demanded, his skin flashing with anger patterns. Security. Reports confirm it, said the security chief. The human diplomatic shuttle made an emergency landing. The pilot, believed to be Ambassador Chen, has disappeared. Council member Ziv's skin showed patterns of alarm. He's looking for her. For Lyra. Increase security at her quarters immediately, Thox ordered. But it was too late. When security forces arrived at Lyra's quarters, they found only an empty room and an open window. Marcus and Lyra moved carefully through the maintenance tunnels beneath the city. He had studied the city plans before his journey, memorizing possible escape routes. There's a small spaceport on the eastern edge of the city, Marcus explained as they walked. Less security than the main port. If we can get there, I have contacts who can help us leave the planet. Lyra's skin glowed with worry patterns. What then, Marcus? Where would we go? Your people won't understand this situation any better than mine. I don't know, he admitted. But we'll figure it out together. I promise. As they neared the exit to the tunnels, they heard the sound of approaching security forces. They were trapped. There's no way out, Lyra whispered, her skin dimming with fear. Marcus looked around desperately, then noticed a small communication panel on the wall. I have an idea. It's risky, but it might be our only chance. He moved to the panel and began to input commands. I'm sending a message to both the Cephalian Council and Earth Command. I'm requesting an emergency diplomatic meeting, with us as the central speakers. Lyra's skin flickered with surprise. You're not trying to escape? Marcus shook his head. Running would just make us fugitives. We need to face this directly, together. The Great Hall of the Cephalian Council had never hosted such an unusual gathering. The 12 council members sat in their usual places, their skin showing patterns of tension and disbelief. Opposite them sat 3 representatives from Earth Command, who had arrived via emergency transport, and in the center stood Marcus and Lyra, hands joined, 2 of her 4 hands held in his 2. What you tried to do is a joke, Marcus said to the council, has resulted in something miraculous, something that proves how wrong you were about humans and cephalians. He turned to the Earth representatives. And what you fear as a diplomatic crisis is actually an unprecedented opportunity. Lyra stepped forward, her skin glowing with the patterns of new life. This child represents something neither of our species thought possible, a bridge between different forms of life. Council leader Thox's skin showed skeptical patterns. You expect us to simply accept this biological impossibility? I expect you to recognize when the universe proves your assumptions wrong. Marcus replied calmly. Humans and cephalians are not as different as you thought. We can connect in ways no one imagined possible. Director Patel from Earth Command spoke up. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador Chen? A new kind of diplomatic mission, Marcus said, with Lyra and myself as its center, and our child as its heart. A living proof that different species can find unexpected connections. 5 years. Later, a small girl played in the gardens of the newly established Interspecies Diplomatic Center. Her skin showed faint cephalian patterns, but she had only 2 arms like her human father. Her eyes could see wavelengths no human could perceive, and her mind could touch others in ways neither humans nor cephalians had experienced before. Nova, named for the stars that connected 2 worlds, was the first of her kind, but not the last. 3 other human cephalian pairs had discovered they too could form the special connection that allowed reproduction between the species. Lyra watched her daughter playing, her skin glowing with pride patterns. Marcus stood beside her, his hand in hers. "They sent me as a joke," Lyra said softly, "and look what happened." Marcus smiled. "The best jokes are the ones no one expects." In the distance, a shuttle landed, carrying delegates from a newly discovered, sentient species. They had requested this meeting after hearing the remarkable story of how a prank had changed the course of interspecies relations forever. As Nova ran to greet the visitors, showing no fear of their unfamiliar forms, Lyra and Marcus followed. The joke had backfired in the most beautiful way possible, and the universe would never be the same.